Okay, let's get up for allegiance. Okay, here we go. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, you have to sing the fight song. You know it?
Alfred University fight song, or? Okay, welcome, everybody. I'm just going to read our statement of adequate notice. Statement of adequate notice of the meeting to be held by the Township of Ocean Board of Education on Tuesday, August 24th, 2021 at 8 p.m. has been provided in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975. Number one, notice of the meeting was posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Administration Building, 163 Monmouth Road, Oakhurst, New Jersey. All Ocean Township District Schools and Transportation and the school district's website on July 21st, 2021. Number two, notice of the meeting was transmitted to the Asbury Park Press and the New Coaster newspapers on July 21st, 2021. And notice of the meeting was filed with the municipal clerk, Township of Ocean on July 21st, 2021. Ken, would you like to do a roll call?
Yes.
Oh, second.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mrs. Gilman,
Here.
Ms. Hayes,
Present.
Ms. McGovern,
Here.
Ms. Paralamas,
Here.
Ms. Telerico,
Here.
Ms. Tortorello,
Here.
Mr. Weinstein,
Here.
and Ms. Fuller is not with us tonight. So we have 8 members present. We have a quorum.
Thanks, Mr. Janarone. So as far as the president's report, I just want to say a couple of things. One is the other day, the new teachers had their orientation or started their orientation process. And
Thanks for stealing it from me, Jack. That's fine. By all
oh,
means.
rude.
I know, it was rude to steal it from me. It was
And
terrible.
I just want to say that I thought there was a lot of great energy in the room. It was great to see all the excitement that the teachers had. It was nice meeting all of them. And I especially want to thank Ms. Gilman and Ms. Paralamas and Ms. Fuller for coming to greet everybody. It was a nice warm welcome. And I do kind of remember when we did this last year, when we were in the cafeteria, how we were 6 feet apart and everybody was looking straight ahead and no one could turn around. And this was clearly better than that, not optimally where we want to be, but it was clearly better than that. And so I just want to thank everybody for kind of putting that on and inviting us to be part of that. The other thing I want to say is that I know schools, right around the corner. And, this is going to be the second year where we're starting school in a kind of a pandemic. And I just want to remind everybody that's listening and that may have been new to some of these calls that, we've gone through a lot this past, year and a half. And we've learned a lot and we're in a much better position now than we were when we were here last year, right? So I think we've, continually have improved. And I think you can see a lot of the improvements that we're thinking through today. And also, just as a reminder, the things that are going to be coming out and some things that are going to be said by Mrs. Stankiewicz is, our board, does want to follow the guidelines for the county and guidelines for the state and guidelines for the CDC. And, with the idea of masks and the idea of separations and making sure we have a safe and fruitful kind of school. So we're kind of staying the course as we stayed last year. So I'm sure there'll be some comments, but I just want everybody to be reminded of our position. So with that, let me turn it over to Dr. Stankiewicz.
Well, thank you, Mr. Weinstein. I was going to talk about the new teacher orientation, but you did a great job with that. So no, of course I
If you want
do.
to add something like how great it
No,
was
I'm
to have us
joking.
there or something
It was
like that.
fantastic to have you.
Okay.
No, it was a great thing. Every year we always bring in our new teachers and it was great to see everyone. And it is true today, this year, definitely a different tone. Everybody together in this room where we've been and there's a lot of great energy. And I think, these folks are great new additions to our staff. So absolutely, I concur with everything that you said.
Thank you.
Couple other things that I just wanted to mention. So we have a student at the high school who's going to be conducting an Eagle Scout project at the Township of Ocean Intermediate School. We met over there last week, and he's going to be creating an outdoor classroom space in sort of the backwoods over behind the baseball field over there. And we think that, and that's in conjunction with one of our science teachers to create this sort of outdoor area. We have, of course, our facilities folks involved and everything, but this also, I think, helps us with some of our sustainable efforts. And so we look forward to the final product of what happens there. And then we'll all go out and maybe we'll have a board meeting from there one night. That might be kind of
That'd be
fun.
really cool.
Just bring your bug spray. Another thing to mention is last week, the Township of Ocean Office of Emergency Management hosted a tabletop drill that pertained to just school security and school safety. Tom Rue for Township OEM hosted. The New Jersey Office of Homeland Security presented. The Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office was there, Ocean Township Police, all of our principals were in attendance. I was there, very good meeting, very productive, talking about, school security, school safety, with also a lot of time talking about parent reunifications, if there was a need to have to evacuate buildings and things like that. So it was a very productive conversation. So, more of those will take place, of course, but this was really one of the first times that all of those groups came together in one. And that was very good. So I want to thank Tom Rue at the township for organizing that, and getting that together. Another fun thing is that, as you all know, as a board, that Ocean Township Elementary School has been involved for the last year with the Rutgers School Climate Transformation Project. As a matter of fact, I think Ms. Lepusnik, you've recently got some of the data from your first administration. We're going to have you in a few weeks to kind of share some of that data with the board. So that'll be great. But the State Department of Education earlier this year opened up the possibility of having other schools involved, perhaps not to the exact same degree as Dow Avenue is, because they're part of the three-year pilot program, but they're making the climate survey available for other school districts now to use. And we signed up for that and we're selected to be a part of that. So all of our schools will now be able to conduct that climate survey, and that goes to students, it goes to parents, and it goes to staff. So as later this year, we get back into doing our our district-wide strategic plan. As you know, we're up. Our strategic plan is in its 5th year. We're going to look to renew that strategic plan. This will really be a great opportunity to do those surveys more than likely in the fall, and then use that information to help guide a lot of what we do within our strategic plan. So that's really going to be, I think, a very positive thing. So more to come on that. And then we have, so the latest information, hot off the presses, Executive Order 253, which came out today, outlines that school districts, employees now have to either be vaccinated for COVID or engage in a weekly testing regimen. That goes into effect October 18th. So we will be working with our staff. I've spoken to Mr. Riley. We're going to create a mechanism by which our staff who are vaccinated will inform us of that and provide the documentation to show proof of vaccination. And then for those staff members who are not vaccinated, we will work on a plan to have the way it reads is a minimum of once or twice a week of testing. So we'll make a determination as to how often people will be tested, but that will go into effect effective October 18th. So that more to come on the procedures to that. It's very new. But that's where we are. And that includes all staff, regardless of, their position
Outside
within the
personnel
district.
Outside personnel coming in, like. so
Everyone.
Everyone.
Regardless, playground aides, substitutes, the
SAC
whole.
counselors, I'm talking about like SAC counselors.
If someone is going to be in the district on a regular basis, then the answer is yes. So that includes volunteers. So if you have parents who are going to be in once a week or whatever it may be, that will have to happen. If it's a once in a while thing, contract, repair people, delivery people, things like, then that's it. They're in once every 4 or 5 months. The answer to that is no. It also does include food service. So we'll of course be working with Sodexo, even though they're not our employees directly, they're still within the school and they would have to be, it would include them as well. So it gives us, about 2 months to make sure all of that is, so we know who is and who isn't. And then, whoever isn't will have to engage in a testing regimen. So we will not be publicizing who is and who isn't. That's for our internal purposes. But once again, waiting for some more of the guidance. I've read through the executive order, but every time that there's an executive order, we have to wait for the DOE guidance to follow, and that hasn't come yet. So it's a little bit hot off the presses. All right. Questions
we-
about
I'm sorry,
that
I
part?
was just gonna-
Question about the testing, Dr. Jim,
Yep.
on-site or off-site?
Still part of what we are trying to determine. What I think our nurses, one, have enough to do to have to do that. So if it's going to be on site, we are going to look into contracting.
And there are
with,
grants available. I think I brought that up at the
Yeah.
last meeting that the State School Board of Education
Right.
made some grants available for
Right.
testing.
yeah, we got a communication today about a group that would, could come in and do it, and it would supposedly be free of charge to the district. We have to, and to the individuals, we have to read more into what that entails. Or it could be, testing is so readily available right now, that it could be an offsite
Offsite.
thing. There's also a question as to who will pay for it. So that's part of it. You could use you could use ESSER funds for it. You could, could be, there doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be paid for through district funds, but there certainly has been expressed to me that, if it's going to be a state requirement, then, but there are other state requirements that it's not our responsibility to pay for and things like that. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes and.
Do you have a feeling that there's any staff that might apply for a leave or anything like that because they don't want to subject themselves to testing or get vaccinated? Or no, like you haven't got any emails that have said? anything to
Not
that?
so far, not to that effect so far. I haven't been told, it's not been expressed to me that would be the case. So I don't know about that.
I have a couple.
Question.
Yeah, the nurses couldn't do it though, unless they're certified on, what is it? Bodily fluids collection or something like that. Isn't that like, are we,
Yeah, most of our nurses do,
Or are they?
usually have that,
Okay.
training.
but we
But
don't.
once
think we're
again,
having to-
I don't know that I want them with everything that they have
I
to
agree.
do to do
I agree.
that. So but that's something we'll talk about. But I think all of our nurses are able to do it.
Okay,
But I have, I'll double check.
so they have that certification.
Yeah.
And then, so studies have shown where there's mandates is kind of increase the local vaccine percentage. So
Mhm.
obviously we have our, deal with the pharmacy across the street, deal and 35. Would we ever consider having any sort of in-house vaccine events? for
Yeah,
our staff?
that is something that we were talking about. I mean, certainly right now, once again, I think part of our hesitance to that was just vaccines are very readily available in the township. People could go, to many places in the township, some more convenient than our schools to get to. So we haven't really gone that direction. But that is something that we could do as we get, for staff and, obviously I don't know that we'd have to see how we'd want to do it, but it is something we could consider. But I think right now, anybody who wants to get a shot pretty much can. But yeah, we'll talk about that and see if that's something that we want to do.
And my only other question is, you said at the last meeting, we were about 60%.
That was a rough
That's it? No,
estimate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to be keeping tabs on that, like weekly, monthly? If,
Well, we're going to get an idea of exactly what it
Yeah.
is because.
and I mean, will
people-
you be
people
telling
have-
us?
I'm sorry.
I mean, will you be telling us?
I'll let you know the percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely. It's just, what I'm saying is we're not going to discuss individuals.
Of course.
I mean, we've had situations where people have called up and requested that their child be with a vaccinated staff member. Like, those are not things that we're going to get into, we're not going to guarantee that. And we're certainly
Mhm.
not going to communicate who is and who isn't, right? But in terms of, overall numbers, we could kind of speak to that. I don't think
Okay.
there's any issue
Okay,
with
great.
that.
Is there anything else?
Oh, yes, there's
Great.
far more than that. Yes. Mary Ann, could you put up our mask protocols, please?
Oh, we haven't gotten there.
Let me know. Are they up?
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of, obviously, there's been a lot of discussion around, the mask mandate and the mask protocols and Executive Order 251, which came out back on August 6th. So a week ago, all the Monmouth County superintendents got together and talked about this issue with the county superintendent, got some clarification on the expectations, what things mean in terms of how this is going to be handled in the county. So first thing, we want to talk about is I know that there've been some districts in the county where boards of education have written letters, saying it should be a local decision, what have you. But every single Monmouth County district as of today is going to enforce Executive Order 251, which is the mask mandate. So that let that be known and let that be understood. It was also agreed upon by all the districts that this is how all the districts as of today, and I confirmed it again with the county superintendent today, that it's going to be handled as far as what happens when if a student were to come not wearing a mask, and how we're going to handle that as a school and as a district, schools, individual schools and as a district. Okay, so I'll certainly go through it. It's listed here. So a student arriving at school, they don't have a mask, obviously they're going to be offered a mask. And if they put a mask on, then all is right with the world and the day continues and everything is fine. If the student refuses to put on a mask, and we don't have something on file that would indicate an exception to the mask requirement, then that student will, and it's going to depend where it is. It may be a nurse's isolation room, it may be an auditorium, but there'll be a supervised space upon entry where students will be moved to for the short term. Once they're in that space, parent will be notified. And of course, we'll ask the parent to reconsider and have their child, ask their child to please, put a mask on. If they continue to not comply with that, then we're going to ask the parent to come and pick up the child. Obviously nobody wants to do that. We're very hopeful that everyone complies and does what needs to get done. But if that's the case, it's very similar to other dress code violations and things that we deal with, where if a student isn't properly dressed or if a student, isn't following other, school or state protocols, then unfortunately they can't remain in the school environment. So parent will come to pick up the child. If the parent does not come to pick up the child, the student unfortunately is going to have to remain in that supervised setting away from the classroom, that's not in the classroom, for the remainder of the school day. This child will not have access to remote learning while the child is in that environment. So we are still waiting for clarification from the state as to whether the child will be marked absent or not. We believe it probably will be a situation where kids who will not, even though they physically came to the building, if they're not accessing their classroom and instruction, that they will be marked absent. Students who are sent home will not face any disciplinary action. They're not going to be suspended. It's not that, but they're just, they're not in compliance with the health and safety protocols. And so as such, they cannot remain in school. They will have access, of course, to Google Classroom. And if the teachers post anything, then obviously they can do their work, but the teachers will not be responsible to go above and beyond what they would do for any other absent student for that day. So in other words, some teachers may post first thing in the morning because it's what their kids in the class are doing. Some teachers may not post for kids who are absent later in the day. So in other words, we're not going to say to teachers, please make sure you post early because there may be some kids who are in the auditorium without masks or something like that, right? Remember, masks are required on buses unless there's a heat situation. So, if a student did not wear a mask and refuses to wear one, they won't be able to get on the bus. So if that were to happen, of course, we would ask the parent to come to pick up the child. If the parent does not come pick up the child, then we would look for alternatives, which may include contacting OTPD and because we will not drive children home. And of course, we want to make sure that a child is going home to an occupied household, right? So we want to make sure that's the case as well. So, we don't anticipate that that'll be too big of a problem. If the child was going to be going home on a bus, usually someone would be there to pick up the child. The last piece to this is a change. It's not, it pertains to the mask protocols, but it really now is a change that was created in the Road Forward document, which is the guidance that has come from the Department of Health, Department of Education. And so what constitutes a close contact, the definition of that has changed. This follows now CDC recommendations, guidelines for in-school settings for students only. Does not include adults in the school setting, only students, okay? So that is that up to this point, the close contact definition was 6 feet or less for 15 minutes or more. For students in a school setting where all of the individuals are properly masked, that 6 feet moves to 3 feet. So in other words, if you and I are masked and I were to be positive for COVID, if you were beyond 3 feet of me, but within 6, where before you would have to quarantine, you now do not have to quarantine as long as we are masked and properly masked. If I don't have a mask on, you will still have to quarantine. If I have a mask on and you don't have a mask on, you will have to quarantine. So
Does vaccination come? into play?
vaccination does come into play. Of course, people who are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, do not need to quarantine unless they develop symptoms. That's at any exposure situation. But for children under the age of 12, vaccination is not an issue in any way. So, our goal in all of this has always been about schools being open, right? Our goal is for schools to be open. We know what is far detrimental to students is to not be in school and being home, right? So whatever we need to do to keep our schools open, that is our number one priority. And that will always be it, because I know one place where students don't have to wear a mask is at home during remote learning. And we don't want that to be the case, right? In terms of remote learning. Remote learning for parents as a choice is not an option. The governor, did reinforce that yesterday or today. And however, as I said last meeting, kids who do have to quarantine will have access to remote learning options, right? So these are the protocols.
Only-
This is what we will be
Wait, only-
following.
Wait, only quarantine it from a school case, you mean, right?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
They will only have remote opportunities if they're quarantining from something in school, not if they go to Florida and decide
For
to,
whatever reason.
okay,
Not just if they're quarantined as a result of school.
for whatever reason.
Because they may be
Okay.
exposed on the out. Travel,
Okay.
there is no quarantine right now, but if they're exposed and they are told to quarantine as a result of exposure. And remember, if it's outside of school, we very likely will ask for verification of that, a doctor's note or something that confirms that they fell into that category, not just, I want to stay home, so I'm going to say I was,
That- Yeah, I'm
exposed.
quarantining now. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope
Okay.
people wouldn't do that, but it may. That we would ask for that verification, but we think making that distinction is not really fair to the child.
Okay.
All right, so questions on that? One other thing I do want to talk about is the exemption piece, okay? So, there are some exemptions to this, and the governor did clarify in today's executive order some things that clarify some of the rules. So, for example, there is a provision in there that says if wearing a mask could be detrimental or could inhibit your health, right? So we talked about that the last meeting. I think there were some questions asked about that. And absolutely, if there's someone with a medical condition to where wearing a mask might be detrimental or inhibit their health in some way, we will consider an exemption. What is required in that situation is a medical note from a medical professional. A parent note or a child themselves, if they're 18, saying this is the case is not enough. This is outlined in today's executive order. So we need a medical note of a diagnosed condition, right? It can't, it's got to be something that exists for that child, you know, it's got to be something that is in that way. That includes, by the way, mental health conditions as well. Okay. However, if a person is going to say that a mental, it's you know, it inhibits their mental health, which is of course very real, we would need documentation from a mental health professional, just as we would, if for a broken arm, we would require a note from a physician, right? Not necessarily an orthopedic, but at least a medical physician as opposed to a mental health professional. Our doctors will look at those things that are considered physical conditions, our school physicians, and our mental health professionals will review any notes from mental health professionals. Okay, so that is the procedure. That's what we're looking to do. Happy to answer any questions from the board on any of these things. I know it's a lot, but this is where we are at this point.
I have a question.
Yep.
So for a mental health professional, are you looking for a psychiatrist or are you looking for a licensed social worker or licensed professional counselor?
Well, you know, I think we'll have to, you know, I think ideally it would have to be someone who can make a diagnosis of a mental health condition. I think, you know, that would be the answer to that
You
question.
don't think we would want it, you don't think it would go to an MD if we're trying to get doctors notices for physical? Shouldn't we go
Well,
to-
Well, I think a psychiatrist or psychologist, you know, would be more, probably be more appropriate in terms of making that diagnosis.
Well, I think
and
she also put it up to a social worker.
But getting an MD psychiatrist in this area it could be
I'm
prohibitive
not
to
saying- I
many
don't know if it
parents.
would be an
Yeah,
MD
Or
psychiatrist.
PhD or-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that a
Well,
little bit, but I think our goal.
Can we assume that you're gonna get more guidance and more specifics around all this? Or is that not an assumption?
I don't know that we can make that assumption.
Okay, all right.
So far. I mean, some of this stuff unfortunately is left up to, like what I just said is not necessarily defined in EO, but in talking about it administratively, we feel like that's the best way to approach it.
Okay,
And also getting some clarification from the county superintendent that was, you know, he sits at the meetings where these things happen and speaking to what he knows of the intent of the exemptions, that's what.
on Grace Ann's request, can you make sure you come back with us on what you want to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think our initial thought was, once again, people who can make a diagnosis. So we saw that, I think, as either being a, you know, psychiatrist or psychologist, but we would have
All
to.
licensed
Yeah, but-
professionals can though. A
Okay, I
licensed.
mean, we
clinical-
can look into that and see if there are other mental health professionals that can make diagnoses, then, you know, we can certainly, you know, we can address that, sure.
On the handling of students that, you know, are not going to wear a mask or the school, I'm trying to figure out if those are unexcused, excused, and how that. pertains.
Once again, we're still waiting for
still
that
waiting- you're
guidance
waiting
from
for
the
that
Department of
guidance.
Education. That
Okay,
is
good.
more guidance that we are waiting for. I
Great.
think the initial, one of the assistant commissioners was at our meeting last week and he said he was going to check on that and get back to us. We haven't heard back on that yet, but I think the initial thought was that it would be an absence, but whether it would be well, and they're not necessarily called excused or unexcused anymore, but I know what you mean. In the spirit of that, you know, we don't know exactly how that would be
And
Right.
Also,
considered.
if it's multiple days, I mean, if it's every single day that you're
Right.
dealing with this, there's also gonna have to be some sort of guidance or
Right.
internal communication about what you can do, because you're not gonna call a parent every day for 3 months and have some, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what we can say is, you know, just our attendance policy, for example, is that if students have, you know, at the high school, more than 10 absences in a semester, overall 20 absences, you run the risk of losing credit and not getting credit for, you know, not getting credit for the year. So, you know, if the attendance policy is activated for any of these students, it, you know, it's a potential problem. I mean, I think, you know, what we need to do is focus on educating kids and having kids be educated and being in school. And if people, you know, have a problem and they want to, you know, if they disagree with this policy and they protest, you know, and want to protest, that's their right to do so at the appropriate levels. I think that at the local level, our job is to educate kids and we're going to do what we have to do to make sure that we can do that and keep our schools open. That's the bottom line and the priority. All right.
Alex has.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. You did a great job explaining the mask protocols thing. I really don't have too many questions about your PDF. Thank you. And it was, you even brought up scenarios that aren't on here, so I appreciate the thoroughness. Will this PDF that's in the agenda be going out to parents and will it be posted on our website?
Yeah, it's my goal to have this, I wanted, of course, to have this discussion with the Board of Education this evening. And as I, often do, we'll follow up with parent letters after, of course, we've had the discussion here at the board level. So within the next day or two, the goal will be to, certainly by the end of the week, that all of this will go home to the parents. And of course, this would be included within any letter, any correspondence that would go home, which we always put on the website.
And it'll be translated, right?
Of course.
Yeah, 'cause it wasn't in this one. Face shields and gaiters, still, that doesn't count as a mask, correct?
Face shields alone do not count. A face shield for a student, one other thing to mention, some students who do get, if they do become exempt from for mask wearing, we would look for some other mitigating factors like a face shield or perhaps a plexiglass on the desk or something to that effect to help,
Mhm.
address concerns that, surrounding students who are masked may have an issue. But a face shield alone does not satisfy, without an exemption, a face shield alone does not satisfy the requirement.
Okay, and then gaiters are still prohibited, correct?
Gators
Unless
are
it's,
not considered an acceptable face covering in the school.
Even
Nor
if
is a
it's-
face covering with like a filter or some of those. Yeah, it's, we'll send out these reminders over the course of the next couple of weeks to, make sure everybody's.
and I've had a couple parents ask, will outside and PE, because even last year, some kids in PE wore their mask, whether it's inside or outside. So they can remove their masks eating,
Yes.
PE and outside, right? Or-
PE, generally in physical, first of all, outside, it's not mandated outside for anyone, but of course, if a student wishes to keep their mask on, they may. PE, it's generally considered in the exceptions that if you're doing something overly strenuous. Now, I mean, I would think most PE activities would fall into that category. So, I think we're gonna work with our teachers and our supervisors to use good discretion as to what, needs to be done there. And as I think they did most of last year. I mean, remember, we did this for a full year, we lived with this for a full year. So this is nothing new for us. And so I think, most of the folks have a pretty good grasp on what, right. I mean, remember, kids are going to get mask breaks, throughout the year and things, maybe not as many as we had last year because things were new, but, those things are still going to happen. And I think our teachers used very good discretion last year, and I think they will continue to do so and use a lot of common sense, in a scenario that perhaps sometimes lacks a lot of clarity and perhaps common sense, but I think our folks do a really good job of making sure that our kids are taken care of.
Yeah, most of the questions that have happened over the period have been about kids getting overheated
Yeah.
and kids not feeling well. And obviously, as you said before, throughout the whole year, we've kind of made sure that those situations are handled.
Mhm.
And, now we can be a little bit more proactive if we felt like that was necessary, but even on a case-by-case basis, we want to make sure they're handled.
Absolutely. If we see a child's having an issue, then we're going to address that child
Mallory?
specifically.
I have a question, but I don't think you have the answer yet. It's probably something we need guidance on, but
Okay.
if Jeff is a student with an exemption, I'm next to him, we're less than, we're in quarantine closeness.
Mhm.
Jeff is exposed, even though I'm wearing a mask, I would have to quarantine.
If you're within 3 feet,
So-
well, actually, if one of you is not masked, it's a 6 feet,
But-
it's a 6 feet rule.
Okay, so that's,
Unless
so
you're
then,
vaccinated.
does that
Sorry?
then become an issue that?
So unless you're vaccinated,
Unless you're
Can I
vaccinated.
finish my question?
sorry.
So I think we also have to be aware, though, that if a student has a legitimate medical issue,
Mhm.
are they alone in the corner?
We're not looking
And then-
to, I mean,
I know
we're
you're not.
right. I
Just
mean, we're
some
certainly,
parents May ask.
no,
for
we're
that,
certainly
so-
not looking to isolate children or, but, I think maybe as far as we might go is the face shield or the desk,
And then 6 feet. Which is
plexiglass.
fair, yes.
Yeah, we're certainly not looking to have anyone feel a particular way that they don't have
I
a
know,
mask or
and
do.
that wasn't
right.
that
No,
wasn't the
I-
intent behind my
yeah,
question
yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
I understand.
just, it's-
Yeah. But, once again, I think back to last year with all the questions that we got when this was all new. I mean, are kids going to wear a mask? What's going to happen? I think back to all the questions we had. And our kids did an amazing job
Yes, they did.
of wearing their masks. And I mean, did they need reminders from time to time? Sure. I mean, of course. But for the most part, our kids did an amazing job and our staff did an amazing job, keeping it all together without question. I see no reason that we will be in a
Yeah,
different
and again, that
situation.
wasn't, I think the intent of my question was more, exemptions is a very slippery slope.
Yeah,
I'm sure most people have good intent behind obtaining one.
Mhm.
And most of them will be legitimate,
Mhm.
but I just think we need to be mindful of some exceptions to that and what the impact of that could be on the children themselves.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think that's part of I'm just my guess. And by the way, let me just also say that if you read the road forward document, which is up on our dashboard now, because that's the guidance now, right? Everything in there is a recommendation, other than that 3 foot, 6 foot. They will say right out, this is, other than the mask and all that's mandated. Everything else is a recommendation. That's not, so 3 feet, 6 feet, all these things are no longer mandated things. What is priority are kids being back in school full day, full time. That's the mandate. Because right now, for example, with the latest weekly calorie report that just came out on last Thursday, Monmouth County moved back into the orange designation, which is high, which used to mean a mandatory 6 feet. We couldn't operate full day in many instances if it was a mandatory 6 feet. So these things are all now somewhat loosened in the school environment, with the exception of the masks.
Dr. Stefanko,
Okay.
so it's safe to say the school year starting in September will look like it did in June, when kids came back 5 days a week. They went to lunches, they had their mask breaks. It's like June revisiting. Is that safe to say?
I think it's very close to that. Obviously, we'll have more kids in because we still had, 600 plus students out on remote learning, parent option last year. That is no longer an option. So there will be more kids in the school. But it will,
Just more kids, but it's gonna look exactly,
it's going to look very similar to
same.
that. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? So we
I think
can
that was
go on?
I have a couple questions. Can you speak to possibilities for school closures in terms of cases? Obviously our vaccination status is different from like Florida, for example, but what's the likelihood? Is it we have to reach a certain threshold in order to close a school if we have cases?
Once again, I think, there used to be, well, I don't know if it was ever clear, but there, the state used to come out with, K-12 guidelines for schools, right? That's really been replaced by the road forward document. So there is no, to my knowledge right now, specific criteria that it would take to close a school. What it really is going to be is, I think, in consultation with the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission, our good friends over there, and what's going on. I mean, I will tell you that, we spoke about this last year, back in April, if that were December,
Different story.
we've been closed,
Yeah.
right? But as time went on, there was definitely a different feeling from the state as to what was necessary to close the school. And I think we would have to see, I think, and once again, there's a difference between a targeted classroom and a full school, right? I mean, full school would have to be, I think, a very significant situation. I think we want to try to keep schools open as much as we possibly can and try to target things if there does need to be a quarantine or a closure of some kind. That we're going to try to do that, which we did most of January through June. I mean, other than 2 weeks at the intermediate school, we did not close the school in that time for COVID. So, I think we were pretty successful in that. But in that, does create, a lot of contact tracing challenges and what have you. So I think we're gonna have to look at volume and how many people. I mean, I think what you're reading right now down south is there's, schools are starting and then tons of people have to quarantine and, so will vaccinations help that? Will other things up here help that? Very possibly. So we're very hopeful, but we do always have to be in mind that, keep in mind that we may have to pivot to a short-term, 2-week, remote learning situation if conditions call for it.
Will you be sending out your quarantine letters, with how many positive cases
The
every?
weeklies.
The
And-
weeklies,
and we
okay.
did wipe clean the dashboard
Okay.
today in preparation for September 1. And yeah, we'll continue that. Yes.
So if my child has if there's a positive case in my child's class, but she's nowhere near, like say she's 15 feet away, will everyone in the class be
Whatever
notified?
the protocols were last year, we'll maintain those protocols. Yeah. I mean, typically at class, I think we did, right? I'm trying to remember, we would let the whole class know your peripheral contact and the ones who were a close contact, of course, would be notified. And if any of them have to quarantine, they would have to quarantine.
If everybody could see the principals' faces, that was just like PTSD
Yeah.
nods over there.
Oh, it's all
Yeah, I
PTSD, trust me.
Mhm.
Trust me.
Okay,
right.
Jim, I have one more question about PPE. I don't know
Yes.
how much we went through last year, but do we have enough PPE for staff for another full year or half the year? I mean, we have. supplies.
I think yes, or we're in very good shape, at least for the foreseeable future. But Ken, can you?
Yes, the only thing that's outstanding right now is we have another order of the trifolds, the plexi that's on its way. But besides that, we have everything in-house.
Still have.
Yep, and our inventory is strong.
Thank you.
good, thanks, Ken. Okay, Ken.
Wait, I'm sorry. I had another question for Dr. Svengut. Does not, sorry. Sorry. But can I ask you just about job postings or is that, when do I do that? Is that not now?
I don't know.
What was the question?
Job postings, I mean, that would probably be more of a,
Personnel.
I
or
mean, if it's general, unless it's about
Okay.
specific.
It's 1.2 on the agenda, so I just didn't
Yeah.
want to miss it.
Is it general questioning about a posting or is it?
I mean,
a
we could do it-
specific-
Just, some of them are expired already, so, if someone's watching right now and they wanted to apply for something, but it's expired, like, why are we posting
well,
expired notices?
well, no, the job postings for the board's information. That's not the public,
It's actually not on their agenda.
right?
It's not on there.
No,
But I'm saying the purpose of why we give them to the board is for your information to see what jobs are open. That's not the way we, advertise jobs. So when when it goes out, it's usually NJ School Jobs, which is, generally considered to be the place where, most people post. We email it to our staff. We, unless of course something is a internal posting, something may be an internal posting, in which case it doesn't go on school jobs, but it gets emailed. It's, if it's an outside, it's on the website. So there's, it's out in the public, the board meetings are not the place where it's intended that this is where the public learns about job posting.
okay,
Got it.
okay. Ken, your report?
Okay. I just wanted to give the board a quick update on the solar project that's ongoing with Spiesel. We did go to, as the board knows, we went to an RFP and that went out on the street on August 13th. We had a pre-bid meeting on August 17th. And we will, the bids are due back on the 9th. And then from there, September 9th, that is. And then from there, we will review them. Ms. McGovern as the chairperson of the
Planning and
PNC,
construction.
Planning and Construction. I may need your assistance to sit in with the architect to review some of them or all of the proposals. There are 4 options. So, and then after the committee reviews them, and then we will be coming to the full board to discuss in September. So that's where we are with the process. And hopefully we'll get some good bids and some good options. We can review it in committee and then come to the full board in September to discuss the options. And if, if, or, it could be where nothing is advantageous to the board, and then there's no obligation to do anything, to go forward with to accept any bid. So we have options, and that's, why we started down this road. And that's why we engaged Spiesel Architectural Group to come up with options, go out, see what's available, see what's out there, and see if there's anything that'll, as far as a payback goes for solar, what that payback would be, and how advantageous it would be to go with one of the options. So we'll see. And if there are any questions, I can answer them. If not, we'll be talking more about it in September. That's all I had.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Ken. Now we're going to move to public comment. So let me read this part. The following are a series of motions to be read by the committee chairpersons. All motions have been discussed at recent public work sessions. Some motions have been approved at a public work session, and the minutes for the approved items are posted on the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session will be open for public comments on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. So just before I open it up to everybody, I know we discussed a lot about our policies around masks and those kind of things. So first of all, we all welcome public comment, but probably, realize that our policy around masks is going to stay as is. But feel free to give us your opinion and do so in a respectful kind of way. And we'll continue to let you kind of make your comments. So without further ado, Ms. Conway, does anybody have any comments they'd like to make?
Yes, Mr. Weinstein, we have one commenter. It's Susan Green, and she has a comment about a personnel agenda item.
Okay, great. Ms. Green?
Good evening, everybody. My question is, how many open positions do we have to date? And primarily, what schools are they in?
Yeah. Do you want me to address that?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Thank you.
Mr. Svenkovich, could you address that?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Actually, Susan, off the top of my head, I don't know. We'll have to, if you shoot me an email tomorrow, I'll try to get you an answer on that. But off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
We don't have a ton.
Well, no, it's getting lower and lower, but there have been some positions that we've had a couple resignations, so they opened up. So it's kind of fluid, but no, I wouldn't call it certainly a lot. Most are filled, but there are some we are looking to still try to fill.
But you wouldn't say that we're at any more than what we normally are at this time. We're probably where we normally are.
I'm trying to remember back 2 years, because last year we were dealing with so many other
Right.
personnel issues, but I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? It's about what?
Teaching positions or all?
Both. Yeah. Right. We have some admin positions that are still.
I would
open.
just repeat anything they say because they can't hear you.
Ms. Weldon, Susan is just stating that we have about 5 teaching positions, give or take. We have a couple administrative positions still open. I think we have a few CST openings. I think we're still looking for our BCBA. So there's still a few, still some out
Ms. Green,
there.
is there something specific you wanted to know about, or is that?
Well,
suffice?
yeah, my impetus was, the question was, would you anticipate anybody to receive a packet and there won't be a teacher's name, especially in the elementary school, on the packet? Just so parents are forewarned, if this is the situation, that's a.
Do we have any of those?
There's no packet. They're gonna log in.
Yeah, there's-
see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Once people are approved tonight, hopefully they'll put those names in there.
Right. We do have some elementary folks tonight, which,
But full classroom teachers is, I think, what Susan's asking.
yeah,
for. So
we do have a few
some.
that are,
Why don't we keep that? 'Cause I don't-
yeah.
Just one?
What Mr. Milano was saying that there are some classroom teachers that are going to be, I think, approved tonight, but I think that finishes off the classroom teacher situation. And then we still have some other openings.
Okay.
You know,
Great. Thanks, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else, Ms. Conway?
Yes, Lori Todd would like to comment upon effective school solutions.
Sure. Okay, Ms. Todd.
Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I
Hi.
just
Hi,
want
Lori.
to, hi. I just want to reiterate what Grace Ann was, or Ms. Talarico was saying before about possibility of exploring, finding out more information about other programs that the district might benefit from. So I think it's really important that as the co-chair of the district wellness committee, that we have that discussion on Thursday morning with the committee and then present our input, our findings, our, our discussion at the meeting to the board before there's any final voting done.
Okay, Ms. Todd, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Ms. Conway, next.
Mr. Weinstein, there are no further commenters at this time.
Okay, great. So now as we move on, we're going to go to the approval of minutes. Ms. Gelman, would you like to do that?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with Board of Education. Okay. Board of Education bylaws 0168, recording of board minutes, work meeting executive session minutes, August 10th, 2021. Are there any comments or concerns about our posting of the minutes?
First, we need a second, right? Ken?
Yep, second.
Okay.
Mr. Torello,
Yes.
everyone
Uh,
good?
Any
Yes.
comments about the meeting minutes?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, Irene.
You're welcome.
Ms. Tortorella, would you like to do the approval of bills, please?
Sure. Move for the approval of the following paid items. The attached bill list dated August 24th, 2021, as well as payroll and employer FICA and DCRP taxes totaling $5,074,228.81. May I have a second?
Second.
I think that was a tie.
It was a
Definitely a
tie.
tie.
I'll let Irene have
All
it.
right, we'll go with Ms.
Thank
Gill.
you, Ken. It was a tie.
Any
Okay.
questions? Okay, Mr. Dunham.
Okay, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Can you just go over what one it is? Is it all of 8?
Yeah, it's
No,
5.2.
we're on 5.2, approval of bills.
All of 5?
Lori,
Yeah, yes. Yes. Sorry. I'm on the wrong agenda. I'm on the work session.
She
Sorry.
said yes, and that I'm next. I say yes.
okay, so this is the bills, 5.2, so yes. Okay, Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mrs. Paralamas,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
okay, the motion carries.
Ms. Tortorella, could you continue with section 6, financial management? Thank you.
I have 14 items for approval this evening. I will read as fast as I can. 6.1, the following resolution certifies that budget balances at the end of the month were adequate to pay all remaining obligations of the 2020-21 school year, and that account groupings required by the state have adequate balances. The board is also certifying that the independent reports of the treasurer and the business office are in agreement as per the resolution below and the attached reports. 6.2, move for approval of the attached resolution dated July 2021, covering appropriation transfers in the 2020-21 general fund. 10, said transfer shall result in no change in the total original appropriations. 6.3, move to approve use of facilities as per the attached memo dated August 24th, 2021. 6.4, move to approve the following security drills for the month of July 2021 as listed below. 6.5, move to approve the donation of 2 used out-of-service school buses to the Wanamasa Fire Company to help with their training and vehicle extrication. 6.6, move to approve the contract with Summit Speech School to provide itinerant teacher of the deaf services for the 21-22 school year at a rate of $165 per hour for 2 students as follows. one student at Ocean Township Elementary School for 2.5 hours per week, one student at TOIS for 1.5 hours per week. 6.7, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation jointure agreement with Shore Regional Board of Ed with the Township of Ocean Board of Ed to act as host as per the below. 6.8, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation jointure agreement with West Long Branch Board of Ed with the Township of Ocean Board of Ed to act as host as per the below. 6.9, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation jointure agreement with Eatontown Board of Ed with the Township of Ocean Board of Ed to act as host as per the below. 6.10, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation jointure agreement with Monmouth Regional Board of Ed with the Township of Ocean Board of Ed to act as host as per the below. 6.11, move to approve the preschool agreement with Accelero Learning Monmouth and Middlesex County Inc. for 2022 school year as per the below. 6.12, move to approve the agreement with Monmouth County Vocational School District to accept Township of Ocean students into the following programs for the 21-22 school year as per the below. 6.13, move to approve the donation of 100 pieces of 8-ounce University Medical hand sanitizers from Harmon Face Values of Ocean, New Jersey. And last but not least, 6.14, move to approve the donation of 550 supply boxes from Staples for Wayside Elementary School. May I have a second? Second.
Nicely done.
Mr. Donovan.
Okay. Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
We dropped something from this you said earlier in the work session, correct?
the use of facilities, it was changed before,
Oh,
before tonight, so
okay.
it's already been corrected.
So yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mrs. Parlamas,
Yes.
Mrs. Telerico,
Yes.
Mr. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein.
Yes,
Okay, the motion's carried.
thank you, Ms. Tortorella. Ms. Gilman, would you like to handle number 7, instruction, education, and student activities?
yes, I'd like to. There are 9 items
Thank you.
for our consideration. Move to approve a cancellation to out-of-district public tuition for the 2021 summer ESY program in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 11th, 2021, as listed below. 7.2, move to approve in line with district policy 8220 school day, the times that district schools will be in session, including the starting and ending times of shortened days during the 2021-2022 school year, in line with district policy 8210, the school year calendar for the 2021-2022 school year was approved at the regular monthly meeting held February 16th, 2021. 7.3, move to approve changing the name of the following course for the 2021-2022 school year at the Township of Ocean Intermediate School from the old course name Enrichment to the new course name Gifted and Talented. 7.4, move to approve district curriculum for the 2021-2022 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 4th, 2021. Copies of the curriculum are attached. 7.5, move to approve out-of-district private tuition for 2021-2022 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 16th, 2021. 7.6, move to approve the acceptance of the following non-resident students to attend the Township of Ocean School District for 2021-2022 school year on a tuition basis as listed below. 7.7, move to approve the request of college university students to fulfill their clinical practice requirements during 2021-2022 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 5th, 2021. 7.8, move to approve the request of college university students to fulfill the early field placement requirements in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 5th and 19th, 2021. And 7.9, move to approve an internship for the 2021-2022 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated August 5th, 2021. May I have a second on those? motions?
Second,
Okay.
We're
Further
having
discussion?
no discussion of this right now, right?
No, you can.
You can discuss.
Discussion's open. We have a second, so if you have a question, now's the time.
Yeah, under the Head Start contract, it says we're supposed to make PD available to the Acelero teachers. Do we do that ever? We do?
Yeah, the answer we got, because we discussed your question. So we do, but they have a different curriculum, so it's not always, we offer it, but it's not always
Taken
accepted
up.
or relevant.
They do a lot of internal PD for their, with their phone. It's,
Yeah, I'm
Acelero
sure.
Acelero themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
Often statewide, so they do a lot of that. But yeah, we do offer it. And we evaluate, we evaluate their teachers on our evaluation system. We have very close communication with them.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so this is items 1 through 9. Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
yes.
Ms. Paralamas,
Yes.
Ms. Tellerico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes to 7.1, 7.6, recuse myself from 7.7 and 7.9. And on 7.8, just recuse myself for the August 19th early field placement.
Okay,
Okay,
the motions carry.
okay, thank you, Ms. Gilman.
welcome.
Ms. Paralamas, could you walk us through, could you take over the personnel part?
Certainly, Mr. Weinstein. I have 15 motions this evening. First, 8.1, move to approve revisions to the following job description, supervisor of elementary education. 8.2, move to abolish a computer lab assistant position, technology department at the high school. 8.3, move to approve school nurses to work during the 2021 summer months, as listed below. 8.4, move to approve the following resignations as listed below. 8.5, move to approve Karen Marone as a Career Pathways Lead Teacher Finance Program for the upcoming school year. 8.6, move to approve Craig Adams as a Career Pathways Lead Teacher Technology Program for the upcoming school year. 8.7, move to approve Robert Zupko as a Career Pathways Lead Teacher Visual and Performing Arts Program for the upcoming school year. 8.8, move to approve an unpaid family leave of absence without the continuation of benefits for Demetrius Patterson, custodian 1, night shift at Wayside for the period of August 24th through September 10th. 8.9, move to approve a revision to the co-varsity co-advisor stipend as listed below. 8.10, move to approve Thomas Ryan as the JV boys soccer coach for the upcoming school year. 8.11, move to approve substitute teachers as listed below. 8.12, move to approve substitute bus drivers and substitute transportation aides as listed below. 8.13, move to approve the following as playground aides and playground aid substitutes as listed below. 8.14, move to approve that revised contracts be issued to the following as listed below. And 8.15, move to approve that contracts be issued to the following as listed below. Do I have a second?
Second,
Mr. Janaro?
Okay, this is items 1 through 15 for personnel. Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas,
Yes.
Ms. Tellerico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes,
Okay, the motion's carried.
thank you, Ms. Paralamas. Policy. Move to approve the abolishment of policy regulations listed on the attached file below, named abolished list with explanations from August 10, 2021. Associated policies are also attached. And 9.2, move to approve the second and final reading of revised or new policies, regulations as follows below. Can I get a second?
Second.
I think the tie goes to the winner. Couldn't tell you.
Okay, any further questions?
Any further questions, anybody? Nope.
Okay,
Okay, Mr. General.
okay, two items under policy, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Torello,
Yes.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Yes.
And the motion's carried.
Okay. So now we're going to go into our second public comment session.
Isn't old business before public comment?
We,
Isn't old business?
That's
new
Old-
business?
old and
new
new.
business, new business.
It is. It's be underneath it on the
Is that
agenda,
how
but
come it-
it's old. business.
Okay, so my first one I'm conducting, get it out of order. Come on.
I know. That was my
Okay,
fault,
anybody,
Mr. Chairman.
anybody have any comments or anything they want to bring up for old business? Anybody on the board?
Yeah, you know, the 7 students that aged out of the out of district, were any of them like eligible for that extra year that the state said we could give to older students? And did they elect, like, are they doing that? And are those counted?
Well, Jen, could really get into specifics of some of that. I mean, not the, obviously the specifics, but were there any kids that fell into that category? Generally? No. Okay,
I can't hear her though.
there's so few students that it might potentially.
identify them?
someone, yeah.
Okay. If somebody was in the, what is that, over 18, whatever that 18 to 21 bracket, would they be counted in this out of district, or is that a whole
You mean the
separate,
18, 21, now the over.
the extra year?
the
Yeah,
extra.
yeah. Would they even be in that, or?
If they were still yeah, they're still in the roles and we'd still be accounted and paying for, they're still under the child study teams, the auspices of the child study team, right? They would be counted.
Okay, thank you.
Any other old business anybody wants to bring up?
I might,
Going once,
wait, old business?
going twice. 2.5.
That might be it for me.
All right, is there any, Joel, is there any new business? Anybody like to bring up? Ms. Paramas, you look like you want to say something.
Not tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry, I do. Are we having when's the next task force, and are we still not gonna have the building committees?
We
The-
don't have a planned task force. We did meet in the summer
Mhm.
and we talked about some issues, a couple weeks ago we met. We really decided at that point to meet more on an as needed. So we're really not, don't have a set schedule at this point. It is I think I mentioned before, it's no longer required, but we are going to keep it, just kind of loosely formed in case, things arise that need to be discussed. So, no set new meeting at this point.
Grace Ann, did you want to say anything? Or are you good? I just want to make sure because I didn't have
I'm
my
good,
screen up, so I couldn't tell.
There
if you
you
were-
go. No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Anybody else? Good? Okay, we'll move over to public comment. So at this time, would anybody from the public like to make a comment on any item at this time? A lot of any's in there. Miss Conway, anybody?
Mr. Weinstein, at this time, there are no public commenters.
Okay, great.
Motion to adjourn.
So I'm
Move
gonna make
to
a motion
adjourn.
to adjourn. Can I get a
Second.
second? Second?
Hit that gavel, Mr.
Who
Weinstein.
was the first?
All right.
Who said, who gave
Who
the second?
first?
Oh, Shawanda,
Who was the first?
Who was the
Shawanda.
first?
Shawanda, who was the first? Shawanda was the first. and you
I
can
know,
say
I saw he
second.
was playing with.
And who was the second? We can't hear. Shawanda. Shawanda was the